Welcome to the November 2025 edition of the FO Exclusive. Happy Thanksgiving to all our American friends. This is the day before Thanksgiving. Before we carry on, let's give you a reminder. Last month, we covered 3 topics. Israel and Hamas agree to a ceasefire. Number 2, yet another US government shutdown. Number 3, the new geopolitics of East Asia and the Pacific. And we can pat ourselves on the back. We were a little ahead of the curve. The new geopolitics of Asia, East Asia and the Pacific is something we will cover, but more on that later. So this month, this November, what has happened? Well, we've seen high drama in America. Dick Cheney died. I'm sure, Glenn, you're very sad. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal rages on. Marjorie Taylor Greene is gone, or rather is going. She claims she was cast aside by MAGA Inc. and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military-industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can't even relate to real Americans. That's a ringing endorsement.
The poor woman.
Yeah, the poor woman. Okay. Democrats won in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City. Zohran Mamdani, a new Miss You Bling Bling with nice rings and handbands. He quoted Jawaharlal Nehru in his victory speech, and he played brash Bollywood music after his speech. The very song Dhoom Machale was Make an Explosion. I wonder how that goes down in Texas and Mississippi. But anyway, hey ho, there we go. Later, he flew down. He didn't take the train. He didn't take the Amtrak, unlike Joe Biden. He flew down for a photo op with Donald Trump. And the two celebrities seemed to get along just fine, despite calling each other wonderful names in the past. So more theatre, more political theatre, a hyper-real world, if we can quote Peter Isaacson. Anyway, despite having election victories in the states, Democrats voted with Republicans, or some Democrats voted with Republicans to end the government shutdown. The left in the Democratic Party now wants to get rid of Chuck Schumer in the Senate. I met some of them at the National Press Club. One or two of them even wished disease and suffering on Schumer. So emotions must clearly be running high. Centrist Democrats think that the left has lost the plot. So not only are Republicans and Democrats battling each other, but they are battling their own fellow party members. So there are civil wars within civil wars. As Glenn, you always say, the US is more polarized today than at any time since the Cold War, or since the Civil War, sorry.
That's Civil War, 150 years. Yeah.
Exactly. You've said that time and again, and I concur. From the emotion I'm seeing in Washington, D.C., within the Republican Party and within the Democratic Party, against their own colleagues, leave aside against each other, it is the most toxic I have seen since I first came to Washington, D.C. My very first visit was 2008, and then, of course, 2010. I've been living here off and on, so this is quite new. The intensity is new. It was always polarized, but the intensity is
and here I'll give a counterpoint to the statement that I have made, or the position I have asserted, many times. 60, what is now 2025? So 60 years ago, 70 years ago, my father, who was involved in local politics, was denounced as a communist, in part because he was a strong advocate of putting fluoride in the water supply so that children wouldn't get cavities. But that was proof of communism then. And today, my colleagues of mine and I, involved in my little community here, have had the characterization of communist electricity. We were promoting communist electricity because we had the foolishness to suggest that a windmill could generate electrons for use in the power grid. So perhaps there's continuity as well as polarization.
Change. Brilliant. Okay. Well, perhaps a military action against Venezuela will provide the uniting glue. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest warship, has arrived in Latin American waters to fight drug smuggling. And as Glenn pointed out earlier to me, it denudes US strength in the Middle East and extending up to Eastern Europe. But anyway, rumors are rife in Washington, D.C., where I sit, about Secretary of State Marco Rubio wanting to get rid of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Venezuela's neighbor, Colombia, is not very happy. The Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, who made news by giving a speech when he came to New York to visit the UN, he then had his visa revoked. He has stopped intelligence sharing with the US. And remember, Colombia has been a loyal US ally, so this is quite big. Moving across the pond, the BBC is in big trouble. The Director General.
I work very closely with Colombian counterparts, diplomats and officials, and they were very impressive people. Some of my warmest recollections of my career were working with them, and that is not an empty act or loss on the part of them, and a sign of the unfortunate is a gentle word. Direction that things are going. We aren't going to talk about this today, I know, but I can't resist. Sending the aircraft carrier to the Caribbean now is really, once again, an example of supply side counter-narcotics policy, meaning that, and this is primarily the Republican approach and has been for 60 years, that if we kill the people or at least stop the people who are supplying the drugs, well, then the problem will go away. And the Democrats, without too much simplification, have argued for a demand side approach, which is that so long as there is a demand, there will be a supply. Prices will rise or fall, but there will be a supply. And in fact, that's a law of the drug trade as well as a law of economics and human nature. And I worked on counter-narcotics during my career, and I spoke to the head of all of the relevant military, counter-narcotics officials, law enforcement officials in the U.S., and I will quote one of them, a very senior person, who said to me that all of the efforts by all of the governments of whatever party in the United States since President Nixon declared a war on drugs in the early 1970s had not changed the price of any drug on any street in America. Because so long as there is a demand, there will be a supply. And to stop the drug smuggling is fundamentally and functionally impossible to do. So good luck to the aircraft carrier. Okay.
Excellent. So, moving across the pond, the BBC is in big trouble. The Director General had to resign. It turns out that the Beeb, as the UK's venerable media flagship is informally called, had stitched together two separate parts of Donald Trump's speech on January 6, 2021. Apparently, this created an untrue impression of his remarks ahead of the storming of the US Capitol. Now, critics have long accused the BBC of turning left-wing and even woke, and Trump has threatened to sue this woke BBC or left-wing BBC for $1 billion.
This is accusing editors of trying to stitch together something that a sentence that actually would contain a subject, a verb, and an object in one sequence.
Excellent. So now, after threatening to sue the BBC, or in between threatening to sue the BBC, Trump has been playing host Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, now known as Ahmad al-Shara, and he has exchanged his battle fatigues for a suit. He visited the White House, and so did Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. Trump enjoyed the company of these tall, good-looking men. He's commented at least about one of them being tall, good-looking, and having excellent skin. We haven't got that compliment yet, Glenn.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
He gave Jolani a perfume, in fact, sprayed it on Jolani. It made for excellent television. And he defended MBS when a journalist, an impertinent journalist, asked the question about strangling and then the chopping up of Jamal Khashoggi. And Donald Trump jumped into the rescue like a valiant knight, like a knight in shining armor for a damsel in distress. And he said that, look, ABC is fake news. And the reporter was wrong in embarrassing a guest of America for a controversial and unlikable journalist. Besides, MBS has done a great job. And more importantly, he's investing tons of cash in the US. Later, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo, later or maybe the night earlier, and Elon Musk attended the dinner Trump hosted for MBS. Now, Elon Musk, of course, wants the billions from MBS, and Cristiano Ronaldo is getting millions to play in Saudi Arabia from MBS. So, hey-ho, there we go. The world as we live in, lovely, wonderful. And another guest arrived in the White House. His name is Viktor Orban. He's quite urbane. He's quite a sophisticated chap. Maybe not sophisticated, but he's canny and clever and cunning and is fluent in English. And he managed to secure an opt-out from America's sanctions on Russian oil. Now, note, Hungary relies on Russian imports for cheap energy. And of course, to secure this deal, Orban agreed to buy more American liquefied natural gas. So more LNG sales to Hungary, but Hungary can continue to get Russian gas. Excellent. Now, close to Hungary is a country called Turkey. It is ruled by Recep Tayyip Erdogan. I call him Sultan. He's president, but he's really a new Ottoman, and he's the new Sultan. And his prosecutors said that they would seek a prison sentence of up to 2,352 years for Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, who by all accounts is a decent mayor and is the main challenger. Should the next election come around, should he manage to stay out of jail? And he's in detention for a trial for alleged corruption. So there you go. Turkey, is certainly going, I suppose, hot turkey, if not cold turkey, or cold turkey on the idea of democracy. Let's talk about bombs very briefly going off in both Delhi and Islamabad. In Bangladesh, a court has sentenced Sheikh Hasina, who was president or prime minister. She was president, prime minister until recently, to death. The ruling Bharatiya Janata Party has won elections in the poor state of Bihar. Critics say that transferring rupees $10,000, basically 15% of the per capita income, to every woman, to every woman's bank account in the state help. So you can buy the election. And India now has competitive populism. Glenn and I will talk more about that another time, and the socialism more inherent in the Indian structure. Jihadists are on the ascendant in Mali. They blockaded the capital Bamako. They executed some social media influencer. Armed bandits abducted more than 300 students and a dozen teachers from St. Mary's private Catholic school in Nigeria. So Donald Trump can intervene on behalf of Christians in Nigeria now, I suppose. And perhaps notably, if you believe in, if you're interested in trade, if you're interested in business, and if you're interested in how things are working in international relations, the Trump administration reached a framework trade agreement with Switzerland. Tariffs on Swiss imports go down from 39% to 15%. So our dear friend, Ralph Heckner, congratulations. He's the ambassador to the US. He's a fantastic diplomat, untiring, polite, conscientious, was training to be a skier, a competitive skier, and was a competitive mountain runner, but now is a diplomat. Anyway, the deal, however, is very simple. Just like Japan, just like the EU, Swiss companies will invest in the US. They will invest 200 billion, 50 billion from Roche, 23 billion from Novartis. Jameson Greer, the US trade representative, claims that this would help America reduce its deficits in pharmaceuticals and other key sectors. Of course, the Swiss are being criticized. Guy Parmelin, the Swiss economy minister, has been accused of selling the Swiss soul to the devil. He insists that's not the case.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.